Jasmine Carter grew up counting time in songs. At New Hope Baptist on the southwest side of Atlanta, Sundays were measured in verse and refrain, call and response, hands clapping like clocks. Her mother taught third grade. Her father fixed HVAC units and hummed hymns while he changed filters. Jasmine sang alto because somebody had to hold the floor. She loved that job, the quiet power of harmony, the way it propped up the melody without asking for applause. She met Darius on a youth revival night, the kind with a guest preacher who told stories that made teenagers laugh and then go quiet. Darius showed up late, baseball cap in hand, voice like honey poured slow. When he sang a solo, total praise, eyes closed, left hand lifted like he'd been born that way, the room leaned toward him. His tenor made deacons forget their cough drops. After service, he grinned at Jasmine like he already knew her. "You hold that alto like you on payroll," he said. "Somebody gotta keep you from floating off," she said, smiling, trying not to blush. He walked her to her car in the parking lot, lights buzzing, moths caught in holy confusion. He asked for her number and didn't push when she hesitated. "I'll see you Wednesday," he said, confident like Wednesday belonged to him. Warnings came early and polite. Sister Bernice, head usher, murmured, "That boy can sing a ring off a finger." One of the old deacons kindly said, "Talent ain't character, baby." Her mother kept her counsel, but watched Darius the way a teacher watches a charismatic student, the one who could ace the test if he'd stop entertaining the room. Jasmine took notes and saved them in her heart where she kept all advice, useful, sometimes ignored. Darius had a way of making you feel like the only voice he could hear in a choir of 200. He remembered little things, how she took her coffee, milk, no sugar, the book on her nightstand, Morrison, the name of the girl in her third-row Sunday school class who always raised her hand, Amaya. He didn't press, he invited. They started as friends with a speed that surprised her. Walks after rehearsal. Late-night Waffle House, where the waitress called everyone baby like a blessing. He wrote her a hook on a scrap of paper, her name folded into a lyric, and she teased him for being corny, pocketing it like a talisman. Darius had a past he didn't hide, an on-and-off situation with a soprano who'd moved churches, a job that wasn't quite a job, promoting parties, running opportunities that looked more like waiting on a call. He could sing, yes, and talk his way through locked doors, but his life had more beginnings than middles. Still, he beamed his light toward her, and she warmed her hands against it. They married the summer after Jasmine graduated from Spelman and took her first teaching job in a charter school off Campbellton Road. Wedding in the church, reception in the fellowship hall with string lights and punch, and an auntie who insisted the line dance was ministry. Darius wore a suit that fit like a promise. Jasmine wore a dress her grandmother had sewn, lace soft enough to make her cry quietly in the mirror before the ceremony. The choir sang them down the aisle because what else do you do when two singers vow? Her mother's warning was gentle, not a scold. Love him, baby, but check that the road under your feet is paved. Jasmine kissed her cheek. "It's us, Mama. We'll pour concrete if we need to." At first, marriage was a duet that found the same key. They rented a one-bedroom near the Beltline where you could hear the city exhale at night. Darius stocked the fridge on good weeks. Eggs, orange juice, leftover lemon cake from someone's repast stacked in foil. He auditioned for church specials and dreamed out loud. A small EP with the choir backing him, a YouTube channel with Worship Wednesdays. Jasmine graded papers at the table and corrected his commas in the Google Doc because love is proofreading, too. Sundays felt like proof, him on the mic, her 2 steps back, eyes on the director, hearts in the same time signature. The first hairline crack was scheduling. Darius was always almost on time. He was often 5 minutes away from an hour out. He missed a parent night at Jasmine's school because a rehearsal ran long, then brought flowers the next morning and apologized like a poet. "You know me," he said. "I get caught in the music." "I know you," she said. "I also know clocks." Money made the second crack. They'd saved a little, wedding gifts, her teacher's salary, but dreams have subscriptions. Darius recorded a 3-song demo with a producer who believed in him. The fee was family, which still meant too much. He took a part-time job at an audio store and quit when the manager spoke to him like he was 12. Jasmine took on tutoring after school, then Saturday remediation. For a season, she told her mother when she asked. Before, she told herself, naming a future that had to be around the corner. The choir loved Darius until they didn't. Charisma draws a crowd, it also draws scrutiny. He was late, occasionally slippery, the type to charm in confession and repeat the habit. When the praise team added a new alto who could carry melody like a lantern, he flirted on the edges. Nothing you could screenshot, everything you could feel. Sister Bernice caught Jasmine's hand one Sunday. Baby, you can't lasso wind. I'm not trying to, Jasmine said, smiling chest tight. She brought it up at home, not accusations, questions. What are we building? What's the plan? Where does this go? Darius's answers were mosaics, pretty pieces, no grout. I'm taking meetings, he said. My cousin knows a guy at V103. We're this close. How close is this? She asked. He held his thumb and forefinger an inch apart. She wanted a tape measure. Still, love is stubborn, and Jasmine's was the kind that had learned to harmonize. They built rituals. Tuesday tacos, Thursday prayer, Saturday morning walks in Piedmont Park when they could pretend the city was theirs alone. He made her laugh. He also made her feel like a mirror sometimes, needed when he needed to see himself shining. The night Jasmine found the text, she wasn't looking. Darius's phone lit up on the counter while he showered, and a message preview flashed. You were amazing tonight. I can't stop thinking about. No name she recognized. A heart, then a flame. She stood still, like sudden noise had spooked an animal near a creek. She didn't scroll. She didn't need more words to translate what her body already knew. When Darius came out, towel around his waist, she held the phone out. Who is this? She asked, voice low. He inhaled like a singer about to hit a high note. A fan, he said too quickly, then steadied. Okay, a woman from the uni where we did the convocation. She's persistent. Did you give her anything to be persistent about? Jasmine asked. I don't cheat, he said, eyes cataloging her expression the way he read a congregation. You flirt like it's oxygen, she said, and you breathe in places that make me feel like an accessory. I'm sorry, he said. He meant he was sorry she was upset. He might have also meant the larger thing. He came close, dried her cheek with his thumb, kissed her forehead like they were making up after a tiny thing. Jasmine let herself be held and hated the relief of it. They tried boundaries. He would not meet women alone for music chats. He would not minister DMs after midnight. He would be home when he said. For a month, he honored the list like a fast. Then old habits walked back in like patrons of a club who never pay cover. He wasn't egregious. He was consistently just over the line, and patterns wear you down more than storms. The real break didn't come from a woman. It came from a job. Jasmine got an assistant principal offer at her school. Still too much work, slightly more money, a chance to shape the building the way she believed kids deserved. Darius said, That's big, but the next sentence was about his EP. He celebrated, and then asked if she could float the studio fee just this once because his check would hit Friday, for real this time. She looked at their account. She thought about the kids who needed a library open late and her mother's voice about paved roads. She said yes because saying no had become the villain in their house. Then the check didn't hit Friday, and Darius avoided the apartment until Saturday afternoon, and Jasmine sat at the table with a budget spreadsheet that didn't understand art. Baby, I'm close, he said, dropping to his knees like a music video apology. If I can get this EP right, everything else lines up. I know you're carrying more right now. I swear I'll carry you soon. She believed him because he believed himself. That's how some promises work. They sound truest to the person making them. They kept going. Sunday mornings remained their altar and their camouflage. They sang their way through awkward weeks. The church murmured like church does. Nothing cruel, plenty of caution. Jasmine learned the spiritual skill of keeping two truths in the same hand. I love this man. I am not being loved the way I need. When she found out she was pregnant, she sat in the teacher's lounge and cried from a place deeper than news. It was joy, fear, wonder, and accounting she didn't know how to do. She told Darius that night, shy like a teenager. He lifted her, laughed, cried, did a circle in the tiny kitchen like he was running routes. "We gon' be the singing family," he said. "Our baby gon' have perfect pitch." They painted the second bedroom soft green, watched YouTube videos about swaddles, counted kicks like a game that kept them close. Darius promised fewer late nights. He meant it until the EP release party, which he could not treat like a regular gig. He stayed out after, basking in the applause he needed like a plant needs sun. He came home to a wife with swollen ankles and a look that was not anger so much as inventory. "I'm tired," she said. "I'm not fragile, but I am finite." He brought flowers. He brought silence. He brought apologies, and then brought the same old again. Jasmine went into labor on a Friday morning with a contraction that felt like a deep cramp and then the undeniable wave. Darius drove too fast. She yelled at him to stop at lights. They laughed, ridiculous even in this. Their daughter, Eden, arrived with a cry like a trumpet. Jasmine held her and felt the world change shape around a 6-pound center. The next Sundays were church at home. Eden on Jasmine's chest, Darius humming Blessed Assurance because it soothed them both. He posted photos, wrote captions like prayers meant them. He also took a booking 2 weeks later he didn't need and justified it because diapers cost and the producer would be there. Jasmine didn't have the energy to argue. "Be home by 11, she said, and hated how maternal she sounded to a grown man. He was home at 1. "We got caught up," he said, sheepish, kiss already loaded. Jasmine nodded and went to bed. She loved this person. She was also becoming someone who would not beg to be prioritized. Those two truths were roommates, not enemies. Sleep deprivation makes everything sound louder. The next months were a looped track of feeding and burping and planning church budgets and answering teachers' emails at 10 p.m. Darius held a baby. Yes, and he loved her. He also slipped back into the arms of applause whenever life bent ordinary. He still came home. He still kissed his wife's temple like a signature. He also left milk out on the counter and forgot the pediatrician appointment and flirted with a soprano in a DM he didn't mean like that. The 1,000 smalls matter more than the single big when you're building. Jasmine asked for counseling. He agreed. They met with a therapist off Cascade who had a plant in every corner and the kind of eyes that saw how you reached for water. She asked pointed, undramatic questions. "What do you do when you feel small?" Darius said, "I sing." "What do you do when you feel unseen?" Jasmine said, "I work. Then I get mad no one sees me." They had good sessions. They had one bad session where Darius got defensive and left early. "This ain't a courtroom with me on trial," he said, and the door shut too hard. He came back with a Dairy Queen blizzard and an apology and an intention. Intention doesn't change diapers. The choir started to strain under Darius's orbit. A new worship director, more structured, less starstruck, asked for punctuality and practiced humility. Darius bristled, called it quenching the spirit, which is what church people say when what they want isn't happening. Jasmine watched from the alto row and felt embarrassed in a bone-deep way that had nothing to do with the new director and everything to do with choosing someone who kept choosing himself. The Sunday the choir director benched him for tardiness. Darius sat with Jasmine and Eden on the second pew. He sang harmony from the side like a man who didn't know where to put his hands. After service, people told him they loved seeing him with his girls, which is how congregations try to redirect you without mentioning the thing. He smiled and received the blessing, and then spent the afternoon sulking like a teenager. "They don't respect me," he said. "Respect comes from showing up when you said you would." Jasmine said, tired, nursing the baby, not ready to pad the truth. He glared. You gone take this side? I'm on the side of us, she said, which means I can't keep pretending your almosts are enough. They fought, then didn't speak for 2 days because infants and work make silence easy to justify. When they finally talked, it was at the kitchen table, bills spread, eating in a bouncer swatting at a plastic star. Jasmine said, I don't want to leave. I also won't teach our daughter that love is chaos dressed in song. I can be better, he said. He meant it. He became better for 3 weeks. Then the DM happened, one that wasn't just flirting. A screenshot came from a mutual friend who said, I'm not trying to stir anything, but you should see this. A private message with a woman, their thread longer than a casual laugh, the language not explicit, but intimate, the kind of sharing you do when you should be telling your spouse. The timestamps were late. The heart emojis were too many. Jasmine sat with the phone pressed to her palm like it might burn through. She walked outside, the evening heavy with humidity, cicadas making their old song. She called her mother. She did not cry first. Mama, she said, I can keep loving him and still leave, right? Her mother's voice, steady, careful, didn't waver. You can do both, she said. You can love and you can leave. Love don't mean you forget how to walk. Jasmine packed a bag with more calm than she thought a person could have. She took Eden, diapers, a stack of onesies, the sound machine that fake-rained them to sleep. She left a note because she didn't have energy for a speech. I love you. I'm going to Mama's. I need quiet to think. Do not dramatize this into a song. Make it into a change. Darius called, then came, then cried. He promised again. He framed their story in a way that made him the hero in progress. Jasmine didn't argue with his narration. She told him what she needed. Counseling weekly, no DM ministry. No gigs he couldn't get to and from on time. Real work that paid regularly. He nodded, said yes to all. Did 2, forgot 1, rationalized the 4th. She waited, then stopped waiting. A month later, she filed for separation. Church gossip tried to get in her car. She didn't let it. The worship director hugged her in the copy room and slipped a card under her elbow with a therapist's name. Sister Bernice brought a pan of baked ziti and said, I don't have advice, just noodles. Jasmine ate a bowl and then another, and sometimes grace looks like carbs. Darius spiraled and then stilled. He did ugly crying, then stoic denial, then steps toward something true. He moved into a 1-bedroom that didn't echo, took a job on staff at a community center teaching kids basic music theory, found routine like a forgotten coat in the back of a closet. He came to see Eden when he said he would and stayed as long as he had promised, which is how trust starts to rebuild. Unremarkable, ordinary, boring. He sang less at church and listened more. Jasmine kept the apartment and then, with her mother's help and a first-time homebuyer program, moved into a small townhome near her school with a patch of grass Eden called my yard. She painted the walls herself, 1 room per weekend, a color named comfort gray that read as green in afternoon light. She cried sometimes when Eden was asleep, not for the marriage as much as for the story she had tried to write and couldn't. She laughed other times because she hadn't realized the house would be this quiet and peace could sound like a refrigerator humming. Work steadied her. She learned to delegate without apology. She learned to say, that's not sustainable, in meetings where everyone else said, we'll make it work. She created a Friday ritual with her teachers. 30 minutes after dismissal, snacks in the library, no student talk allowed. She and the worship director started a little after-school music club where kids learned to harmonize without competing, and Jasmine remembered why she loved holding the floor. Months turned into a year. Eden turned 2 and prayed over meals with a mumble that God translated. Darius kept his schedule, the custody calendar pinned on the fridge, like a covenant. He sang at New Hope now and then, but mostly he built a garden of small decencies. He didn't ask to get back together. He didn't send poetic late-night texts. He showed up. He left on time. He Venmo'd for shoes before she asked. He mailed a letter to Jasmine's mother with a thank you for raising a woman who told the truth without humiliation. He grew up not for a stage, but for a child. Jasmine dated slowly because slow felt like honor. A man from her principal cohort took her out for tacos and told a story with himself as the hero in every paragraph. She passed. A substitute teacher brought her coffee 3 Tuesdays in a row and asked if she liked hiking. She considered and then said no because she didn't want it. A drummer, of course, invited her to a rooftop listening party and called her Queen without learning her middle name. She left early and slept beautifully. Then she met Isaiah in the school parking lot, cellist, music teacher at the middle school down the road, dad to an 8-year-old boy who looked at Eden like she was both baby and boss. Isaiah had a way of leaving room in a conversation. He didn't make everything into his anecdote. When he learned she was separated, he didn't ask for the story. He asked what she liked to cook on Sundays. They did not hurry. They saw each other at school choir showcases in aisles at Kroger, at the park where Eden insisted on the slide and then hated the slide. He was not a pastor or a star. He was a person who had lived enough to know that love's job was not entertainment. The first time he came to New Hope, he sat with Jasmine on the second pew and watched the choir do what choirs do. Hold people. Darius sang harmony a row back, eyes down, voice blended. Sister Bernice fanned all 3 of them like she'd always planned to. After benediction, they shook hands. Darius looked Isaiah in the eye and said, "Take care." Isaiah said, "I will." No theatrics. No old movie. Later, at home, Eden colored while Jasmine made spaghetti. Isaiah washed the 2 plates without being told. Jasmine dried. "You okay?" he asked. "I am," she said, and meant it without pretending it was simple. On a spring Sunday 2 years after the separation, the church invited Jasmine to speak on Women's Day. She wore a dress the color of sunrise and stood at the pulpit with notes she didn't read. "I used to think love meant singing the melody," she said. "But most of my life I've been the alto, the one who makes the song hold. I married a melody. I learned to be harmony. Then I learned I don't have to keep harmonizing a note that won't stay in key. I can love the singer and still step away from the song. God met me there." The congregation hummed the way black churches hum when truth lands. She thanked the choir, then the ushers, then Sister Bernice for the baked ziti. She didn't tell Darius's business. She told her own. She ended with a simple amen and the invitation the pastor had asked her not to forget. She did not. After service, out on the steps where everyone compares dinners and traffic routes, Jasmine's mother pressed a kiss to her cheek. "You paved that road," she said. "It's steady." Jasmine looked out the parking lot, sun off windshields. Kids running around an oak like it was a city. Darius buckled Eden into her car seat for his time, adjusted the strap with the practice fingers of a man who knows his way around a latch. Isaiah waited beside Jasmine, hands easy in his pockets. Sister Bernice waved a fan like a flag. The choir director loaded music stands. Life regular as keys. Warnings Jasmine knew now weren't curses. They were love notes sent ahead of you, sometimes ignored, sometimes read too late, sometimes saved in a pocket until the day your fingers find them and you say, "Oh." When the choir stopped singing, when the melody couldn't stay home, she learned to be her own harmony. She learned that peace is a song too, and it doesn't need a solo to be beautiful. That evening, after Eden was with her father and the house was still, Jasmine sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and her grade book open. She wrote next week's lesson objective on a sticky note, compare theme and main idea, and smiled because it was also her life assignment. She texted Isaiah a picture of a crooked spice rack she'd finally fixed. He sent back a video of his son practicing scales, each note steadier than the last. She listened to the hum of her own home, floorboards settling like a sigh, and realized she hadn't felt like an accessory in a long time. Atlantis sang outside, sirens, laughter, a motorcycle deciding it was a choir too. Inside, no spotlight, just a warm lamp, a clean sink, a calendar with small squares filled honestly. She whispered a thank you to God, to her mother, to Sister Bernice's noodles. to the girl she had been who believed in melodies, and to the woman she had become who could carry harmony alone until somebody worthy brought the right note. On the next Sunday, the choir director nodded at Jasmine for the closing hymn. She took a breath, opened her mouth, and sang the floor into place. The church stood on it, as they always had, and this time she felt the support she'd been offering. She felt it holding her, too. Thanks for watching.